How's it going, man?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Nice.
Worked a lot on this patch, and then some was close, so it feels good.
That's this is a big patch. That's what I'll say. Like I was genuinely I was very surprised when it came out and the video happened, but also then I saw the patch notes. I'm like keep scrolling down. I'm like, wait, what? This is a legit balance patch. So first off, congrats. How long has this been in the works? Would you say?
Um, Actually, I think I started working on that like 2.5 weeks ago,
Okay.
and some of those changes were already like decided before. So yeah, so that helped a lot.
Wait, a week and a half ago? Did you just say that?
2 weeks and a half.
2.5 weeks? That's literally all. That's crazy. Wow.
Yeah, it's like there was quite a while that we didn't have a patch, so I think it was time to like make up for it.
Yeah. Well, okay. Let's start here. Let's kind of reset a little bit. So obviously, people tuning in, maybe wait. Who is this guy even? So, SouL, if you want to introduce yourself, who are you? What do you do with Project Congur?
So I'm just a passionate player that once that the official servers shut down, I started playing in Project Congur, and always enthusiastic about like making the game go forward in terms of balance. And I got the occasion to start setting things up, working with the developers, Corden, Gopo at the time, and several other people. And here we are, like releasing new patches whenever we can.
Yeah. So how many patches have been released with Project Congur? Like more balance? Is this the? I guess two questions. Is this the biggest balance patch that's been released with Project Congur?
So that's a sensitive question for me because
Okay.
actually the biggest patch, I don't know if everyone remembers, but it was the 5.0 patch,
Oh yeah.
which it didn't go very well for several reasons. So we're gonna skip that, and we're gonna focus on the fact that lessons learned. Now we are doing things differently, and after that one, yes, this is the biggest one.
Got you. Okay. Cool. Um, so yeah, again, looking at this patch, there's a lot from not only hero changes, so some hero balance changes, but of course even some items, and then also map changes. So we'll start there, I guess. Let's start there. The map changes. We're looking at you can see it in the video as well. An idea more so around the Congour pit area, kind of cleaning that up a bit, and also some ramps. So if I'm not mistaken, the ramp change. Reading right here. Which one was the one that? Oh yeah, Legion and Hellborn base terrain now has a single level instead of double high ground. So is that essentially saying like the river places to go up into the jungles? It's now only one level instead of two levels.
Actually, no. This
Okay.
is focus only. So, if you take exactly the same map than now, and when you are at both bases, the only difference is that there is no double high ground close to the tier 3 in both bases, and
Oh.
and that change was designed for a long time. It couldn't be implemented yet, but there was a general level of agreement that by having this double, what we mentioned, double high ground in the bases, delayed considerably the matches. And as is described in the patch notes, like it just allowed turtlings for so long that sometimes even if you had a considerable lead, you still couldn't push because of this double high ground. That
Yeah.
you could just stay there with your most valuable targets and just waiting for the right time to use your spells or PK and delaying the matches over and over again.
Yeah. Okay. As you're explaining that, and this is definitely why I'm glad we're having you on because that was a very good explanation. And it's kind of hitting me too. It's like, oh, duh, that's the base itself. Yeah. For some reason, I'm thinking like the river up to the jungles, but it even says right here, the base terrain. So put a 1-1 together. So okay, that makes sense. There are those double layers there. So all right, cool. Good change there. And then the Conqueror Pit area. Yeah, it makes sense to me. I always found that a little bit odd when it came to like the vision on Conqueror itself. You had to like go onto the actual arena to be able to even see Conqueror. So it really seems like that's what you're changing, right? Where now you get the vision of that area kind of from outside that arena, at least in certain parts of it.
Yes, exactly, because the pillars are very easily warded or counter warded. And now you will have like more space to be creative and maybe place like some sneaky wards in order to either defend or contest conquers. And that arena concept, it was indeed very weird because even if you didn't want to ward for the conquer itself, if you wanted to see people farming ancients or just rotating through those areas, that arena was pretty annoying. So it would block the vision. So we decided to see how it's going to be now with more room for creativity in terms of wording.
Yeah. Cool. Okay, so I talked to you obviously before you came on here, and for those that are tuning into the stream, probably know as well. If you tuned in yesterday at least, I spent a little over 2 hours kind of going through all these changes and reading through everything, testing some stuff out, understanding what the changes are to expect. So I don't want to necessarily go through everything. I'm sure you don't either, but there was a list that we kind of created. To present to you to maybe more specific ones, and then obviously if there's any that you also want to really expand on yourself, then we can do that as well. So let's start going over that. Let's see. So the first one so we'll start with the item side of things. Items in general, Astrolabe Barbed Armor getting some reduction. So like what's the logic between really just kind of standing back and looking at just all the item changes that you made. What would you say is kind of the general reasoning for, especially with this gold reduction in most cases on a lot of these items?
Astrolabe, it's because it's such a good item for team fighting, and you rarely see it nowadays. I mean, there are very few heroes that actually buy this item. And now, without the double high ground, we hope to see the item more often in terms of providing pushing potential and also for more team fights. So the gold decrease was just to see if is it the item too expensive, or if still with the gold the cost decreased, if it's still not enough to be appealing to players. And the Barbed Armor is pretty simple. It's just that the recipe cost is way too high, and even when you manage to buy the item, the effectiveness of it's doesn't justify, in my opinion, to have to pull 1,100 gold to finally assemble the item. Okay. So it's more to see those items being utilized more by just having to spend more gold on it.
See, this is what's kind of interesting with these item changes, right? Because especially more so an item like Barbed Armor, because Astrolabe, it's definitely overall somewhat of a general item. Yes, more supporters, some maybe offlaners, utility, whatever. This will definitely help potentially increase the use of it, and even the Pegasus boots, obviously as a result too, because that's now overall cheaper. Maybe start seeing more of those, which would be nice. But Blade Mills, or excuse me, Barbed Armor specifically, there's only a couple of heroes that come to mind. Of course, the one that everyone goes to is Legionnaire, right? Legionnaire, Barbed Armor, that's this classic combo for obvious reasons. Is there a worry in you that's like, well, with this change, maybe Legionnaire is potentially going to be a little more too powerful, or is that something you're not too concerned about?
I mean, I know that a lot of people dislike junglers, and I can understand that there is a general frustration level related to junglers, because you actually have to suicide your farm and your fun in one lane so that that player that is playing jungle in a certain point in the match is gonna get out of it and start like doing stuff for the team and making up for all the deficit that he created. Um, I'm not too concerned about that because Barbed Armor is also like an excellent item on Kane, for instance, and a lot of those heroes that would maybe utilize Barbed Armor a bit earlier and be more effective. I think a good case as well would be, for instance, Pharaoh. I think that these two heroes specifically, they don't farm fast enough or don't have too many good tools to farm fast enough um, to justify such a high recipe cost.
Mm-hmm.
And also their goal is not to be farming too much either. They need to be ganking. They need to be doing other things. So we want to provide more gold to those heroes by reducing the cost of these items that they go already, so they can be more effective by buying other items or having power spikes in different times in the match.
Awesome. Okay, so moving to the last thing I want to talk about items, probably one of the most popular changes of the patch, I think, one of the more discussed ones for sure, is the Shadow Mist. Shadow Mist and Veiled Rot together, where Shadow Mist actually crazy change, where the price reduction from 350 gold, restock time reduced by 5 minutes, max charges up to so obviously there's a very much a incentive of like, guys, start using Shadow Mist. It's a very good tool. We want people to pick this up, and this is going to make it a lot more likability for sure, especially with supports being able to purchase it now. So the change to Shadow Mist, I'm actually curious on where that came from and if I'm on the right logic there. And then there is the Veiled Rot part of it, where Veiled Rot is now more expensive than Shadow Mist. Veiled Rot's 100 gold, Shadow Mist is 50 gold. Is that something that you plan to look at more, or what are your thoughts on that?
I'm glad that you brought that up because a few players already told me like, oh my god, like why is this 50 gold? It's better than Veil Rot, and yet the price is reduced. And actually, when we wanted to introduce Shadow Mist, the goal is like we want to implement an item that is going to enable players to do more coordinated moves on the map, either by ganking, invading the jungle, contesting Congors, like to create this atmosphere and this environment where players can really like group up and do something. And the price that was set at the 300 when it was introduced, it was just to say like, oh, I know that it's powerful. I will set it like at 300 because even if your support needs to buy it, it's not going to be a huge burden for them.
Mm-hmm.
And now when I think the purpose of the item is exactly what I said, guys, utilize it, go make stuff on the map, go play, go have fun. Uh, have some team fights.
Get kills, yeah.
Let's make something happen. And if the price is 50, 100, 150, 200, or 2K, the people that are going to buy it are mostly supports, and they are very sensitive to gold. So I find it very punishing to leave it at 300 just because it's a very strong item that in the end you want to buy it anyway, doesn't matter the price. And since we really want players to utilize it, we set it at 50 gold. But some people already warned me like, oh, are you not worried about they using now that it's so cheap, like to solo Veil Rot and go grief the team and etc. I told them this is not a problem of price. This is a problem of mentality. And until we reach a point where people we like we adapt to it,
Yeah.
I probably am giving a lot of work for our DM team. So guys, be careful. Be careful.
It's Yeah, so kind of off of that, yeah, like I totally see what you're saying, and that's something that kind of hit me too. The more I kind of sat there and thought on it, especially yesterday, because when that was being presented, it's like, yeah, I could see that concern, but at the same time, I think, as you said it yourself very appropriately, that's more of just a mental thing in general. And there's, if people are actually going to do that for the sake of trying to, grief a team, then there's many other ways that they could do it already. So, but it also goes to my thing is, who cares if they use it themselves? Like, yes, the
I,
overall idea is you want to use it as a team, but if they happen to use it in a situation where it's like, I would just want to spend 50 gold instead of 100, just go for a quick gank, okay, so be it. It's still being used and still trying to get something out of it. So I think it could be fine still, but
yeah, definitely. So the goal is so because when you compare Han with other MOBAs, I think one of the biggest issues that we have from mid to late game is that you cannot TP anywhere else to punish your enemies.
mm-hmm.
So once that your auto towers are down, uh, your only way of punishing people is actually being on the lane and ganking them. So that I'm pretty sure that is going to help. And also, if we transition now to the Veilrot changes that I described there, that I try to make sure that it also apply to Shadow Mist, is that now heroes under the Veilrot effect, so this visibility effect, when they place wards
Yeah.
or rev wards on the map, they are not revealed. And some people were reluctant, but as soon as I told them, guys, when you're in a match, what do you prefer to play, with vision or without vision? And I think everyone is gonna say, oh, we want vision. We want to see the ganks coming, or we want to see people moving on the map, or we want to see the carry in the jungle so we can go and kill him and etc.
Mm-hmm.
So so it's a supernatural change that is going to enable supports that are the most squishy, the most vulnerable when they are in those expeditions trying to ward aggressively, to be able to fulfill their role and provide vision to the team.
Yeah. As
And
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
and if people are going to get killed more, well, that's part of the game. And that's also a good way to also um, put a little bit of how can I say, spotlight on the supports.
Mm-hmm.
So, but by enabling them so that, like, guys, now you really have effectively the tools to go
Yeah.
and help your team.
Give them more tools to actually feel empowered to do things. I as a support player myself, I absolutely love that idea and hope to see even more changes along that line for sure. So I think that's definitely a great change. And I'll call it what it is. I know you didn't mention the other obviously it's a Dota thing, and there's nothing wrong with taking ideas from other MOBAs. It's happened for many years since the beginning of MOBA creation, any game creation in general. They've taken many ideas from Han, just like we have certainly used from them in League of Legends, etc. So, but yeah, that change specifically of being able to place wards, what I'm referring to there, it's yes that, and I noticed that myself. I even brought that up earlier in the stream today before I had you on. It's like, yeah, I'm so used to being able to do that in Dota that when I came back to place the Project Congra, I wasn't able to do that. It was a bit frustrating. So it'll be nice being able to get that vision out while under the Veiled Rod effect. Another reason to use it. So like that change for sure.
And to, like, not counter the benefits of the changes that we made to Veilrot, we just, like, removed some what I call absolute counters to the effect of the item.
Mm-hmm.
That was the Frost Wolf scouting wolves. There is the
Yes.
active effect of the item that the range is so big that if you can scout people on the Veilrot, you are negating a gank, you're negating a team coordinated event. And also Geomancer E with the sense pulses, so you don't senses units under Veilrot anymore. So all that is really to create this environment where more plays can be done.
So I'm glad you brought that up because we did test a little bit of this. Again, we don't have the patch access necessarily, but just on the current to get an idea of how that would feel. Emerald Warden's Wolves was something that I brought up too. Is like I wondered how does that work, and from what I could tell, it does scout Veiled Rot currently. So is that something that is because that feels like that's under the same vein, right? Of the Frost of Skull and Geomancer's Geostock.
I'm glad that you brought it up because I kind of forgot it, so I will look into it before the patch goes out and remove it. But the idea is that the invisibility of the item Veiled Rot or Shadow Mist, both, is like superior than the normal invisibility. So nothing should be able to break that unless it is like people that have vision on each other.
Yeah, that's definitely the intended point of the item. So that makes sense to me. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's the items now. Again, going through the heroes, a fair amount of hero changes. Some definitely more minor than others, but there were several that stood out when I was going through them yesterday.
Just one thing that I wanted to talk about, break it before
sure.
we move on to the heroes, is a change to post haste. Actually,
oh
you
yeah,
mentioned Pegasus boots, but I think post haste is a very important something that I wanted to test for such a long time now. Because as I told you, the mobility mid to late game in Holland is very limited. So the goal is, or the reasoning was the following. There are two reasons. The first one is you either buy PK or post haste as a first item, and if you buy post haste, you utilize through positioning and timing because you need to TP to the wave at the right time, position yourself at the right time. So there is a skill based element that you need to fulfill. And PK is just PK, right? You will rot or you place yourself and then it's instant. You initiate and you make things happen. And someone asked me, but so it can happen that people are gonna buy both. They're gonna buy post haste and then PK. And I told them, oh great, then you can make even more moves around the map. But if you look concretely, what you get no stats, and you're very squishy.
Yeah.
You don't get mana, so it comes with a cost. So I think it's until players like figure it out how to balance all of that and how to utilize it in a good way. I think that all in all is just a matter of getting used to it. And if the price is too cheap, it's too low, we can adjust it later. But I want to have like players making plays and feel like, oh, if I make right decisions, if I plan ahead, if my items choices are good, I can have more impact and be more useful to my team in a match.
Yeah, I saw that as definitely a big support change potentially too. Sure, maybe a little bit more farm expected, but the fact that it went from 1,800 to 30, 500 gold. That's a lot of gold. That difference at a support we need to farm to get all the way to post haste, and now they can think about getting that rather than committing towards that PK or even. And the long-term investment, you could argue, is better from post haste when it comes to obviously not having to get homecoming stones anymore and spend money into that. So yeah, again back to I'm a support player. That's a change that stood out to me as well. That I could see being useful. So.
Mm-hmm. And I'm reading your chat, and SouL is saying something that is very right. Is that
true?
Items are accessible by both teams, so if you make it too overpowered, both teams can take advantage of it, and that's the good thing is that all those item changes are available for everyone, so it's up to them to utilize it.
Yeah. I see some questions starting to pop up. With that said, guys, we're going to hold off questions until we're going to go over a couple things here, and then we'll do a bit of a Q&A at the end that SouL will be able to answer if able to towards the end here. So hold those questions for now, if you don't mind. Okay. So end of the heroes, we're talking about Magmus. Magmus was one that stood out initially. got quite a bit of buffs, including a Staff of the Master effect, which, I mean, since I'm looking at that right here, so the Staff of the Master is really interesting. After the last pulse of the ultimate, enemy heroes are now projected into the air and stunned for a second and a half. Units are stunned for a second, but basically it's an added second and a half stun at the end of the ultimate duration. But then the other changes, let's scroll down here to them, were more to his, obviously, his starting strengths, or level strength, strength per level, that is. Slightly a bit tankier there. But the Lava Surge itself buffed quite a bit as well. The earlier range, especially 100 earlier range at level 1, is pretty significant. And then you also get that bonus movement speed, and now the Eruption ability itself, too, with the ultimate, applying this attack speed debuff. And then I think one of the bigger ones that we were definitely having some discussion on in the chat yesterday when I was going over this, the fact that you can fake cancel the ultimate now. You can start it and then cancel it. Unless you get stunned or silenced, you will get refunded the cooldown and the mana. Tell me what's going on here, SouL.
Okay, so this was a hero that I had to advocate a lot with a lot of players because it's a signature hero that his stun is one of the best. That is like almost instant, and it's very long, and you can have a lot of presence early on in the game with his stun and setting up kills and ganks. But the issue is that a lot of people also brought to my attention that there are a lot of heroes, because Magnus is or was usually played in position 3 or 4.
Mm-hmm.
And right now he's super weak compared to other heroes that play in those positions. So the initial goal was like, guys, let's double down on his Q and make his more effective, because he doesn't scale very well in later stages of the game. And very soon he becomes like this hero that has a PK that goes in, stun as much people as he can, and very often he dies.
It's an all-in, yeah.
Yeah, so then the strength gain came to mind. Like, oh, let's give him a little bit more HP so he can feel more, how can I say, at ease as initiating and being in the middle of the fight. And then I said, but like, this is not going to be enough. He's still going to be like providing a lot of utility early on, maybe getting a little bit more gold through assists or kills because he's going to have this higher range on his Q. But what about giving like this small burst of movement speed that if he hits several heroes, he can be rewarded for it? Because the goal of playing Magnus is you PK in and you try to stun as much people as possible, enemy heroes as possible. So then I came up with this 15 movement speed for every enemy hero because it fits the role of the hero. You already want to do that, and the more you hit, the more you should be rewarded for that because it's not always easy to stun a lot of people. So that's the strength gain and the Q and the Q buff. And I was scrolling on the different channels that we have for the staff and etc. Also the content creators and Kratos. So he's a guy from the Thai community. He brought this idea to implement this Staff of the Master effect a while ago, but we didn't have the opportunity to look into it. And everyone that has access to that channel really liked it, and we are really in need of having those staff effects that people like and see an utility.
Mm-hmm.
So that's for the staff effect that I think, if you think about, the longer the game goes, more enemy heroes have shrunken head. So his ult becomes less and less effective. It does more and more damage, but the problem is that this damage is magic and it's very easily negated for shrunken head. So I said, well, if you can stun the people around that do not have shrunken head, that's already a very good use case for the staff that gives you stats, survivability, and then since I was in this same line of reasoning, is that the more the game goes on, the less effective Magnus is on his Q and his ult as well. I said, well, I think Magnus. I think everyone has already lived through that frustration. That is, you're playing, you see a Magnus around you, and instead of PK in and stunning, so you can start something, he start channeling, and then your enemies initiate on you, kill you, and then he's too late with his ult and his Q. So to alleviate a little bit this burden of really finding the right moment to ult and not hurt your allies, I said, oh, if let's do the following: is that if he start channeling and he sees that it's not a good idea, he can cancel and has his mana back, and then maybe PK in and stun and do something else. So to give this freedom. But once again, a few people told me like, SouL, that's nice, but if you can be faking your stun, your ult all the time, well, some heroes are gonna be eager to waste their stuns on the Magnus, and if he stops just before, that means that, oh, you wasted a stun just before. So then someone suggested, oh, what if we only refund 50% of the mana cost? Because then there is a price that you have to pay in case you have to cancel, so you cannot be this spamming this fake cancel.
Hmm.
And this was like a compromise. And one thing that I said everyone is that if this is abused and leads to people, um, how can I say, uh, making supports waste their stun too much, we are gonna look into it. But the goal is to make this, since it's less effective in later stages of the game, to make it effective and give this flexibility to the players to find these opportunities to utilize the spell.
Okay. I it's so glad you're doing this again because I'm looking at it again. I didn't even realize it said 50% of the mana cost would be refunded. For some reason, I thought it was all the mana cost as well as the cooldown.
It
Don't
it
cooldown.
was it was I've changed.
Oh, so the between yesterday and today, so this is the okay. I was gonna say when I was looking at it yesterday, I thought it did say all the mana cost. So, but that
Uh,
makes sense though.
because my goal is I'm always open to constructive feedback,
Sure.
and sometimes an idea seems like very promising and very like enlightening at the moment, but then you get some feedback, and I like to keep my channels open, so
Good.
we are always ensuring that we are considering as many different point of views, so we land on a solution that is good for the game.
I'd love to hear it. That's definitely how it should be, and that's awesome to hear. So, okay, so big buff for Magnus. It really sounds like, and I as a Magnus player too. I mean, definitely liked these changes. I'm intrigued to try them as a position 3, position 4, and see what plays I can make with it now. So,
Have fun.
yeah. Defiler. Let's go to another hero. Let's go on the other side of the spectrum now to from pretty big buffs to a decent nerf. Defiler. This is another one that kind of brought up some discussion in chat that when we were going over this one. Pretty simple change, just in text. Number of ghosts reduced by 2, 4, or 2, 3, and 4, basically at each of the levels. 2 at level 1, 3 at level 2, and then by 4 at level 3. So obviously this nerfs the damage of Unholy Expulsion, the ultimate for Defiler. Nothing else changing, but that in itself, I mean, again, for a hero that's identity is really the ultimate, it seems like on paper a fairly significant change. So I'm curious logic behind why you felt this was needed.
Mm. So to start with, I agree with you. When you look at the numbers, you are like, oh my god, this feels like a huge nerf.
Mm-hmm.
But when I calculated the effective damage reduced, it's more or less 100 DPS, so damage per second for each level. So from that perspective already, it's not so much. But other than that, the thing that was brought to my attention is that when Defiler is picked, most of the time is as a niche pick where she can very much exploit the fact that she will not be bursted that easily. And once that she ults, it's just like this massive truck that's just like go over everyone. And the only thing that you have to the how can I say the only item that you can effectively counter it if we do not consider if you PK away or if you tablet is Void Talisman because there
Mhm.
is no item right now that um, mitigates the damage done by the ghost. So the reason was there were a few people already pointing out this like let's reduce a little bit the number of ghosts and see how it's going to be because she can be very oppressive. So this is a task to see how it's going to behave so in the future we can adjust it. So
Okay.
it's more that once she outs, there is still like some sort of counterplay uh, when she's around. And you say that her identity is her alt. It's true, but her Q that is like a very long range, high nuke with low CD, and especially her W that is the silence that is a huge AOE. This is also um, this is also
Yeah.
something that really much makes the hero strong.
Oh yeah. No, I obviously her skill set overall is very good. Of course, she's arguably one of the better laners in the game, and then it's to me though. While I was going over, it's like she hits level 6. She's Defiler's ulting. Let's avoid Defiler, right? Like that. That's like it's one of those ultimates that you kind of just you really make a point of as being used compared to a lot of these ultimates in the game. So, yeah, that's interesting though. So it's one of those kind of kind of figuring it out or seeing how it goes with this change and if it's maybe too much. Yeah, a good point. I actually thought the same thing to clarify. You can mitigate the ghosts with armor because they're physical, right? So armor does mitigate the damage, right?
Yes, yes, my bad. And I think
Okay.
that Dutch pointed out it very well. Is not the physical armor mitigation. Sorry, is a deflection.
Okay.
Is if you take for instance Utor,
Yep.
that you can activate the item and then it provides a buff. So these damage reduction types of items do not deflect the damage,
That makes sense.
reduce
Okay.
the damage in that sense.
Cool. All right. Let me pull up the notes here real quickly. What else did we go over? Oh yeah, this is. I'm very intrigued to hear. Okay, explain Puppet Master. We've spent like 15, 20 minutes on this. Everyone in chat had like a different opinion on what the fuck this meant when it came to this voodoo puppet change.
Mm-hmm.
Is this a nerf or a buff? First off, let's just start there. Is this a nerf or a buff?
This is clearly intended to be a nerf
Okay.
because if you
Okay.
think about it, when you're out, the puppet has zero physical armor and zero magic armor, which means that it is as if you're doing true damage to your target,
Yeah.
which is amplified afterwards to the target. Then it gets mitigated, but there are very few spells in the game that applies that has this such extent of aggression and high burst damage.
So it isn't okay because, and that's what I thought too. That it was definitely, but there were some people like trying to figure out this. They were doing some math and like, oh well, the armor means it's gonna
And
like last longer, so it's actually like a buff because you get more hits on it now. So, but that just didn't make sense to me.
yeah, so that's one thing that I need to finalize because I forgot to take that in consideration. To be very honest with you,
Okay.
is that if you give uh, physical armor or magic armor to the puppet, right now how it is that you're gonna have to deal the same amount of HP than before this change, but you're just delaying the damage
Yeah.
because the puppet has more armor and magic armor. And this is not what I want. What I want is that the damage that you're gonna do to the puppet, it's gonna be considered. I just want that the damage that you're gonna do at the end, it's gonna be reduced by the target armor and magic armor.
Mm-hmm.
So you're gonna have to deal the same amount of HP, but in the end, the damage that's gonna go effectively to the target is gonna be reduced. And I just don't have the math in my head now because this is something that I still have to do tonight. But as soon as this is done, I will provide a little statement that will clarify what it means. Because right now, how it is true. It's just that you are delaying the damage that you are doing on the puppet.
Yeah. So in a very general sense, it's preventing. It's not preventing, but it's reducing the burst damage that Puppet Master can do to essentially like 1 or 2 shot people, like he has a history of doing.
Exactly.
Okay, that's kind of that. That's what I thought. That's like the general, which makes sense. You know, I'm a fan for that because yeah, getting 1 shot or 2 shot by Puppet Master that comes out of a Assassin Shroud, you know, never feels the best. So, I mean, you're still probably going to die in the end. Let's be honest, but a little more reaction time that it'll give you.
And also the second part of the change that is there when the puppet's pet reached 0. This was also something that was increasing even further the damage that Puppet Master was doing. So that's why we said there will be no more room for regular attacks, and it will not transfer damage anymore because the range is huge. It's very difficult to detach itself from the puppet, but you can still utilize debuffs and stunts.
All right. One more kind of just like a clarification thing was specifically with Valkyrie, the Javelin of the Light. So what it says here, now the trajectory line of the Javelin is visible to self and allies. So what actually, so is that when you're queuing up the Javelin, people can see where you're aiming? Is that what that's suggesting?
Yeah, so as soon as you cast your Javelin, yourself as a Valkyrie and your allies will see the line trajectory that the arrow is going to do.
Yeah.
So now if you see this long line of trajectory, you can play with it. You can say like, oh, I will stay on it and I will try to bait my enemy.
Okay.
It's just that it provides you this visual aid that because when you are in the heat of the action, you are already overwhelmed by am I in a good position? Am I being initiated? And am I in danger? And if you have these visual cues that allow you to make those to play in a more interactive way with your team. Now with the Valkyrie, you can say, "Look, I'm throwing an arrow. You're gonna see it. Play with it."
Yeah.
And I think that this is team play, and it's only healthy for the game.
Yeah, it's like a quality of life change, which yeah, and I can appreciate that for sure. So as far as the note, what I had there initially with the notes, I know that was kind of the end, but there's actually a couple more that I wanted to, as I'm browsing through this, going to be like, oh yeah, Soul Reaper. As far as buffs go with this patch, Soul Reaper is another one that stood out to me with Magnus. I was like, wow, these are some pretty legit buffs, and I'm intrigued to try them. Soul Reaper definitely got some solid buffs. Initial strength increased from the beginning, so a little tanky early on. But Judgment is damn extra powerful now with this change. The mana cost reduction as well as the heal it does, even at level 1, 20 more heal all the way up to level 4 being the same. But then also Withering Presence, this change that's happening here, no longer half reduction when activated, it now slows enemies. And then it also increases healing when it's activated on top of that. So Soul Reaper is going to be a lot more difficult to kill. This opens up maybe even a support Soul Reaper bit. Like, he's gotten some good buffs this patch.
Yeah, so Reaper needed like some love. It's a hero that got completely forgotten because right now his toolkit is really not good for the meta. And yeah, like if I start with the most notable change, that is the W. This is something that I will really keep an eye on. But if you take, for instance, they slow is very little. It's not a strong slow because I said like since now the rages is will not be reduced, I cannot have like a very strong slow because then people cannot like outrun him. And I think
Mm-hmm.
at level 4 with the 10%, it's still possible. It's just like to to make Soul Reaper more able to position himself in a favorable way to keep chasing a target that is trying to escape. And you mentioned that yes, it increased judgment healing by quite substantially, but judgment I think has 5 seconds cooldown at level 4. No, wait, I think it's a bit more, 5 or 6, I don't know. And Withering Presence, the W, lasts for 10 seconds. So unless you
Only a
have
couple, yeah.
Grimoire, you will be able to only use that spell once with the increased judgment healing.
Oh, interesting.
So
Okay.
so it's I'm very aware that 30% at level 4 it's a lot, but you will not be able to use it a lot. So
Hmm. That's interesting logic there. That makes sense. Okay, yeah, it's not as powerful when you put it that way, but still, for that extra burst heal while it's active, it's still good. One other thing that I want to point out too is that this is another one of these where, again, this is where item changes come into play too, and some of these items I got buff like Astrolabe this patch, as well as the full upgraded Astrolabe. I'm blanking on the name now. The boots, the upgraded boots there.
Star
Um,
Scribe
yeah,
boots.
Starscribe boots. This is a hero that already has history of building these items. Now with these buffs to the hero, but then also buffing those items. I think Soul Reaper could definitely shoot up when it comes to potential here. Real quickly, by the way, Dutch Onage is bringing up a interesting point about the W or a question. Is there going to be mana cost on Withering Presence or no?
Um, right now, not really. I think the goal is really to see the hero being played again and to keep a close eye on it because if it's overperforming, then we can adjust. But I don't feel it's necessary to attach a mana cost on a hero that on an ability that we are trying to make it viable again.
Yeah,
Because the hero is really underwhelming right now.
fair enough. There you go. Cool. So, and then the last one that was, as I was kind of scrolling through again, I don't want to take too long here, but the last one is just hooks in general, specifically Devo and Prisoner, nerfing the range. I'll go to Devo right here. You nerf the initial range, especially of these heroes.
Hmm.
Yeah, hook range reduced from 1,000 to 850, so 150 nerf at the earlier levels. Um, Personally, I mean, I would think a majority of people that like aren't just spam Devo players are definitely happy with this change. But is this just one of those like annoyance abilities that you're trying to tone down a little bit?
I think it's a good time to give a shout out to the Mid Wars community here because the changes to Devour and to Prisoner, I think it's going to benefit both modes
Sure.
because especially Mid Wars where it's so annoying to play against hookers because well there is very little way to punish them if you don't have a hooker on your team yourself. And right now in the meta is that those heroes as roamers or supports, they provide way too much utility without putting themselves in danger in all stages of the game.
Mm-hmm.
And especially later on, that the more you hook heroes, the more value it has because you can start a team fight or a base push without one with one enemy less. This is very impactful, and right now, as is described for Devourer, he's way too strong as a roamer. Like he can be 150 GPM for the whole um, early game to mid game, and he was still gonna be very effective if he lands a hook. So the point now is that uh, even for players that start with Devour, that buys a Veilrot, stack the small camp, kill it while Veilrotted and using Rot, and having a level 2 now with the hook range redust, they're going to have to work harder to make the bar work. That once again, it's one of the most powerful Romans right now, especially in the hands of a few that really, really shine with it.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Good nerf. um, okay, so yeah, again, a lot of changes. Obviously, we'll be linking an exclamation point patch in chat if you actually want to check out these changes for yourself. Of course, on the Discord too.
Ye-
But yep,
Yeah, I think there are three things that I would like to just mention. I think the first one is the new effect on Starscribe boots, because you mentioned it before.
yes, yeah, right here.
So now if you time it well, if you allied heroes are with less 30% HP, there will be a buff that will be applied to them. And this was implemented in 5.0, but was removed, and now I'm bringing it back. And actually, I see a typo here. Um, this is to really try to make the item come more into certain people's builds, because it's still very situational. So to really try to give more reasons so the item is utilized, especially now that pushing is going to be much more viable without the double high ground. The second one is Aluna. I think she had a couple of changes that.
Oh, lost you. You there, SouL?
Yes, so with especially the Q and the W, the Q now bounces way more, so you have way more utility for it. So it's gonna be much more rewarding to be in a team fight, so you can disable as many enemies as possible.
Yeah.
And we reduced the W, that I call it like toxic creep sniping capabilities of Aluna.
Yeah, no, Luna's definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because yeah, you look at it.
His levels 16. It was it was just impossible to push. So I'm very excited to see how this is gonna play out. Um, and I think the last two, if you allow me.
Sure.
The first one is Jereziah. I think this is a hero that had very low impact and identity crisis. He was always considered as a core, but was not a good core and was a poor support as well. So now we are trying to really set him in a good path so he can be a core and provide some good utility for the team. And we hope that it's not going to be too oppressive. I run some calculation for the true damage rescale from attack damage to based on strength for the percentage, so it shouldn't be too much different from before. And I really hope that this hero is gonna come back to the meta, because as I said, it was just in a bad place for so many years that
Yeah.
very rarely people would be picking it.
I love Jereziah, especially more in that supportive role. It's back to I mentioned this yesterday. Back to Dota 1. Even this is my Omni Knight. This is like my go-to hero of all time. So now, with that said, these are since you're talking about Jereziah, this feels to me like more of a you want to see more carry Zaya. You want to see more of that position one Jereziah making appearances. Is that kind of the mentality here?
So it's quite funny, because it's not that I just want to respect Jereziah's identity in Han. That since SBT times, and it's even mentioned in the patch note history, if you look for it, that they explicitly say Jereziah is not a support hero, Jereziah is a core. So for me, it's like the last or one of the last tries to really make him be this core, endorse this core role that has been set for him. Because I would rather go in a support route, because I think it just fits how the skill set of the hero.
The theme, yeah.
So yeah, so this is our legit attempt to really make him feel like a core again.
Paladins always want to be ret paladins. It's like, come on, know your place. You're a holy paladin. You're supposed to just heal, support. Let's go. No, but this is
Exactly.
yeah. I'm very curious to see how these changes take effect too. So was there one more? I think you said you wanted to go over.
Yes, it's the Kraken one.
Okay.
Because it seems a lot of changes, but I think the biggest change of them all is the W that we improved a lot, and I even made sure to say it has never been more satisfying uh, to use this spell, that it was very awkward before because of the turn rate and some different aspects. So
Mm-hmm.
now it's going to be much better and much efficient to initiate with. And the alt is just it's just how can I say, bringing the identity of the hero back to its physical nature, because later on, once that your enemies had shrunken, you dealt no more damage, and it was pretty much like just a small lockdown for utility. And now it still does. It will still be doing damage because it's physical, but we all know that physical damage scales over time. So this is also a small enough per se. But we also thought like, okay, let's keep it relevant as much as possible. And if you reach the center, you take increased physical damage because it fits the overall theme that we are trying to achieve. And it's true that there is also a staff effect now. I think the thing that is worth mentioning is the 1 second superior stun,
Yeah.
superior magic effect stun, and this is just to, if you time it well, you can try to cancel someone's TP, and I think that you have to invest a lot in a staff for Kraken. There are a lot of items that you would like to buy on the
Mm-hmm.
hero, so it's this additional utility that you're looking for as staff.
Yeah, to me that's like a mid-war staff or a somebody else gives you staff effect maybe, but that's a lot of gold in like a regular game to be investing for basically just a 1 second stun. Honestly, and my initial reaction to that. But I will say, I was actually surprised reading through these two with Kraken, where because again it's been so long and for the game, Kraken's ultimate used to stun. I swear, in the
Yes.
past. So the fact that I saw that, I was like, wait, it doesn't stun currently. I had to be reminded of that. So, but hey, you're bringing it
Yeah,
back.
yeah. It's I think a lot of heroes, a lot of aspects of heroes were removed because it makes sense back then. But now when I look back, there are a lot of those effects that were removed that make totally sense. For instance, Aluna. So we always try to keep in mind what was already in the game and try to bring it back because we know already more or less how it's gonna behave. So we are not exposing ourselves too much to unwanted behaviors. But yeah, once again, I really hope that people are gonna enjoy it, this patch, that they're gonna have fun, and that in the end, as I said, we will keep an eye on the changes. We are gonna adjust if needed, but we really hope that people will enjoy it.
One thing, real quickly, before we kind of wrap this up. Well, actually, two things, but Kraken Ultimate. Back to that real quick. The staff of the master suggestion here. If this doesn't work out, bring back the old school Kraken Ult. You know what I'm talking about? The teleport where you queue it up and then you run in and then everyone teleports back to the whirlpool initially wherever you started from after like a 3 or 4 second delay. That was great. Those it's kind of, honestly it's kind of like Riftwalker's Ultimate with staff, so that kind of ruins it, I guess. But that was some fun Kraken Ultimates from the past. So
What I can promise you is that I will look into it. There is a way for me to implement again,
all
and
right.
I will give you the satisfaction to use it again. Uh,
Or or
Trust me.
have him throw Engineer's old turret down as well while he's doing that'll make people happy. All right. Anyways, big question that everyone's asking too. I feel like I know the answer, but when is this? When can people expect this patch? Do you have a solid answer for that right now?
Yes, I do have.
Okay.
So I announced, I think, so I modified my announcement saying that it would be next week. but we managed to wrap it up, so it's gonna be much sooner.
Oh,
So I think that tomorrow we are gonna release a new announcement about it. So what I can tell you right now is very, very soon. You guys will be surprised how soon it will be.
okay. That's cool to hear. Actually, that's news for me too. That's a genuine reaction by me. It's like, all right, yeah, because I'm sitting here thinking next week too.
That's
But
that's
that's
great.
fun.
That's great.
I love it. I love it.
Um, if you allow me, I
Yeah,
would like to take the opportunity to give a shout out to
of course.
Lupish. I got really motivated to start this whole patch adventure by him. He had already started with a few changes and etc. And then he said, "Oh, SouL, would you like to join in again?" So we push a patch. There has been a while that we didn't see changes. So he was the one who motivated me. I have a lot of respect for him. So thank you, Lupis.
Well deserved. And I know, yeah, so many others you gave shout outs throughout the patch notes as well. As this whole Project Conqueror is in a nutshell, of course, it's just an awesome community efforts by people that are just passionate about this game and keeping this project alive and putting some work in. And, we appreciate you. We appreciate you doing so, SouL, and the others that were involved with this patch and giving us something to be more excited about with this game that we all love. So, shout out to you. I look forward to that announcement to come soon as far as the patch hitting us. So thanks again for joining me, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Breaky, and thank you for coming back. I think the legend voice of the game is finally back, and I'm pretty sure that for the best.
I'm glad to be here. Excited for the future. All right. Take it easy, man. We'll talk soon.
Ciao. Take care.
All right, guys. There you go. That was SouL. Awesome, dude. Joining us. Talking Heroes of New Earth patch 4.12.0, 4.12.0. That was good to have him on, as I expected. It's always cool to, have, in this case, really the main person behind putting in